day Esther was watching something sort of like what you were describing about a plight that was happening to people in another part of the world. And as she watched it, she was so upset she couldn't stay standing. As she was walking through the room, she actually sat down. She could not stand how she was feeling. And she said, Abraham, if I feel this bad just watching that on television, what must it be like for those people who are living it? And we said, they don't feel as bad right now as you do, because they are accustomed to that range of emotions. In other words, they've acclimated to what they're living. And so what they're living and what they're wanting isn't as far apart as what you're watching them live and what you're wanting for them. So Esther had much more gap in her vibrational emotional scale as she was focused upon them than they did, you see. And so what we want you to hear from us is that the range or the degree of the gap is not so important as the awareness that there is one. And as you become determined to focus and close that gap so that you are predominantly in concert with your broader perspective, you will become addicted to alignment. There is a high from that you have not achieved in any other way. There's a high in clarity and a high in that love. There's a feeling of elation that is indescribable in consistent human terms when you get tuned in like that, but it is available to all of you, you see. But you have to care about how you feel, and you have to know, you have to understand what the process is. You have to know that the larger part of you is there holding that vibrational frequency, and that it is your job from your human perspective to tune to it, because it will not tune to where you are. That's sort of what your question implied. One day Esther was not feeling so good, and she knew why, and she said, Abraham, come over here with me for just a little while and give me some relief. And she knew she was kidding. She knew we weren't coming. She knew the absurdity of that statement, but she also knew that if we were not holding such high standards of well-being, that her mucking around in not well-being wouldn't be so painful. And we said, Esther, you can't go back. You know too much. You know too much. She's thinking about putting it on your disclaimers that you sign before you come into such a place. You're going to learn stuff and you can't go back. You're going to discover that you're going to know for a while that you are the creator of your own reality, and you're going to know that what you think matters a lot, and you're going to know that your emotions really matter. And for a while, negative emotion is really going to bug you more than it ever has before, because you're going to know what it means. You're out of sync with your own vortex, with your own desire. More important and better said, you're out of sync with who you really are, with who you have really become. You're allowing a gap between you and you that should not be tolerated by any of you. You shouldn't put up with it. Esther would say, well, I can stand a little orneriness and I can stand a little overwhelmment, but there are some things I really cannot stand. And so there were some things that were so painful when she thought about them that she learned not to ever think about them again. And then one night she was visiting with a friend, and they got talking about some of that stuff. And Esther sort of just opened up, sort of described some things that she had lived through. And the next morning when she woke up, she could hardly walk, because it had been such a debilitating experience to hold herself for a couple of hours out of sync with who she really is. And she thought, boy, I'm not ever going to do that again. And we say, we'd like you to feel that way about overwhelmment. We'd like you to feel that way about jealousy or about competition. We'd like you to feel that way about guilt or blame. We'd like you to feel that way about anything that doesn't feel really great. We'd like you to say, it's not worth it. I'm going to tune myself differently because I can. Because I can. Because you can. Just take some practice. Don't try to do it all at once, and start with easy things.